Hey guys, Mike here. So obviously another green day in the market, and if you watched my video yesterday, we didn't expect what we had happen Friday and Saturday, which is those big green candles. And so we did trade sideways most of the day and then took off at the very end. And I'll show you why I think that could continue into tomorrow. But more importantly, I'm going to show you an interview that I think you need to see, because I think this might be what's happening in the market right now. And this kind of information is what can help you make better investment decisions, better trading decisions, and understand what's really happening right now. And I'm also going to go over some data to show you just how bad January was in the market. So if you felt the pain, this is the reason why you felt the pain, okay? So if you're getting out of it, hit the like, subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And let's get right into it. And so to show you how bad January was, guys, you can see this is labeled the cruelest month. But I mean, the cash outflows were just unbelievable. And look at how much was outflowing in January versus going all the way back to 2000 on the SPY right here. And then you look at the QQQ, and the only time we've outdone it is during the .com bubble as far as outflows. I mean, it was just unbelievable how much money was leaving the market. Now, of course, one plus to this is that I saw an interview today talking about how much money is actually sitting on the sidelines, which I think you're seeing start to come back in as well. And so that's a good thing to see. Now, here is the interview I'm talking about, and what they're asking him about is, what does the institutions, the people with the big money, think the Fed is going to do? Because the reason why this is important is pricing in, right? What can the market price in? What has the market already priced in? And this is why you're seeing all this uncertainty and volatility, because the market don't know what the hell to price in, because Jerome Powell just kind of keeps dodging the question, and maybe we'll do this, but then we don't have any plans. If you saw my video, he had 3 chances to answer the question, and they literally said they don't have any plans. So, that's the problem. But now what you're seeing is they're starting to make their own plan up and trying to price stuff, already into these stocks. And so remember, the market is forward thinking, so they're thinking 6 months ahead, or trying to. And so I think that's why you saw this big sell-off, and now you're starting to see a rebound here. It could be a dead cow bounce. Who knows? We shall see. What they call things a sucker rally in a bear market. So, we'll see about that. But listen to what he says, and this is what they think is going to happen, not just this year, but also I think next thing is these Fed presidents doing interviews and stuff, trying to give the market an idea of what they want. And so that's what they believe is going to happen. The truth is, what I think Jerome Powell is really doing is he's just letting the stock market do his job for him, and he's hoping, or basically counting and betting on supply chain issues resolving sooner rather than later, even though it doesn't seem to be happening. But if it does, that should automatically bring down inflation, by probably 2 to 3%. And so, because he knows interest rate hikes aren't going to do anything to touch inflation coming up. And he also understands what happened the last time he tried to reduce the Fed balance sheet. The market just was a total mess. That was 2018 when they tried to do that, and it was a disaster. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I don't know how the market is going to price this in, directly. But as you can see right here, this is why you're seeing the VIX fall off a cliff. I mean, it's just heading straight down. Of course, it doesn't just go straight down. You can look to the left right here. Every time we start to drop in volatility, it does spike back up normally, if not once, a couple times on the way down. So you see those support levels down there. That's where it normally stays, anywhere from 15 to 18, somewhere in that range is where it'll set for a while until you get those big spikes. So I expect, maybe a spike up here. Obviously, all we're seeing is red candles right now. And, looking over at the indexes, you can see the QQQ on the daily right there. I mean, 2 huge green candles like we discussed yesterday, and then a small green candle. We had the spike at the end of the day as it approaches that resistance level. And you can see on the hourly right here, nice move up right there. And we'll see if it can break through that resistance level right there before it approaches the next one. And then looking at the SPY, you can see right here on the hourly, really the same thing the QQQ did. I mean, they traded sideways almost all day. It was in the negative, then it was in the green slightly, and all of a sudden the last hour and a half, boom, it busted right through that resistance level, and be able to approach hopefully the other one tomorrow, the one right above it. And looking at the SPY, I mean, you got to think we dropped about 12%, but right now we're only about down 5.5%, right? And so if you look at what the drop was, it's 12.19%. And so it's made like almost a 7% recovery already. And one big reason for that is some earnings, right? I mean, UPS had a huge day. I mean, look at this gap up on UPS after earnings. 10% just in the gap. I think it was up 16% overall today. And then you had Exxon came out, had good earnings. It just ran up pretty much all day. It just kept going up. It never dropped at all, I don't think. I can't remember seeing that many green candles in a row on a minute chart, but you know, it was pretty crazy. But it got, I mean, overall about 7% after earnings. And then look what's going on right now. And this is what we're talking about, momentum going into tomorrow. You got Google. They just reported earnings, crushed it. I don't know what the forecast is yet, but you can see already up around almost 8% after hours. You got Amazon reporting tomorrow. We got AMD. We got a lot of big earnings. And, you know, I understand I said before, these FANG stocks, they can carry the market, right? I mean, unfortunately, we went a real downturn last week when a couple others reported, and it just kind of either traded sideways or drug them down with it. But if you start to see this momentum shift, those FANG stocks plus M, if Microsoft ever gets out of its own way, can absolutely move the markets. Plus, if you look at like these high growth stocks are up today, 10%. Open Door once again goes up. You know, a lot of EVs reported how many cars they sold, so that started moving the market a little bit. But you know, expect volatility. It's not going to go straight up. We could see a big recovery and then a big dump when we get the obviously first rate hike, if that does happen in March, depending on how big it is. And so, you know, we'll take the good news when we can. We take the green days when we can. Keep an eye on the VIX, okay, the volatility index. Keep an eye on the greed or the fear and greed index as well as you're doing this. Keep an eye on the support and resistance levels as we start to move up. And so, because those big green candles you saw, that's not too normal. You get two good ones, and then from here we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty choppy, but it really depends on how Amazon does, how Google's forecast is. Obviously, UPS had a big one, and so you know these earnings, you know, they can be a catalyst moving up, or they can be a catalyst moving you down. And so we're going to see, but I'll continue to bring the news and what's going on, everything, guys. So if you got anything out of it, I really appreciate it. Hit the like, subscribe button, share the video, and I'll end up seeing you guys tomorrow.